All right, guys, we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome again. Here we are. I am with Trina and Ignazio. We tried to do this, what was that, guys, in October? And YouTube was majorly glitching back then, and we ended up with a video that we couldn't really produce. So thank you, Trina. Thank you, Ignacio, for being back here with me again this time. So, if you would please introduce yourself, tell everybody where you are and maybe what you do. Obviously, you're a QHHT level 3, but maybe you do other stuff, and how you got into this. How did QHHT find you? So, Ignacio, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having us again. Great to be here. Yeah, of course, I'm a QHHT practitioner, and I'm also a meditation teacher and a spiritual mentor. In fact, meditation was really my first love in all of the, spiritual practices and work. So I'm in England. I'm outside of London, just outside of London, in between London and Oxford, in a town called High Wycombe. I'm a little bit on the outskirts, so beautiful nature. I have woods that look a little bit like the ones behind you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and QHHT found me many years after my spiritual awakening, after I'd been practicing meditation for a long time, and I was looking for something. I didn't know exactly what it was. I know it was answers to some of the deeper questions about my soul and my awakening. And also, as I probably didn't know at the time, also some form of work in the spiritual world. And then QHHT found me, and it was amazing. I had my first session, devoured the level 1 course, and started practicing about 2016. That's short of it right now. We'll start like that.
Okay,
But
cool. Very cool. So, Trina, tell us about yourself.
A kind of a similar journey to Ignazio, I suppose. My background was sciences, pure sciences, and then into the corporate world. But I became really ill, like really ill in 2004. And I got into Buddhism and mindfulness and then studied loads of different meditation practices. So, how I came into regression therapy, QHHT, obviously was in March 2015. So my husband had just died quite suddenly, and as most people in this element of grief, I started searching for more. I started thinking there has to be more, has to be more, has to be more, has to be more. And Dolores popped up on my screen one day. It was really interesting. And at first, I thought she was a bit kind of batty. She was talking about angels and things like that. I'm quite like logical, quite
Mhm, mhm.
my sciences background. So I deleted her, and then she popped up again the next day in my computer talking about the same subject. So I deleted all my cookies, all my history, ran a search, everything. And the third day she popped up again, which I know is virtually impossible with my. And I was like, okay, I better listen here. And like she really clearly, really quickly resonated with me. I just don't like any bull. And I like, I quantify different things. And although I see spirit and hear them and work with my guides, I still am logical and sensible about everything. And she just hit all the notes for me. So I did my level 1 2015, my level 2 in early 2016, and then my level 3, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, something like that. And even in my level 3, to be really honest, I had absolutely no intention of doing it. And spirit, like, I mean, pushed me off the chair when it popped up, and I was like, fine. But obviously, the best experience I've ever done. I'm kind of one of these people that maybe ADHD, I don't know. But when I study something, I want to know everything about it. So I've done regression therapy, I've done studied the mind, I've studied clinical therapy, I've studied, yeah. So now what I do is I've kind of come full loop. I used to do coaching and everything. I do spiritual mentoring. I do QHHT, obviously, and I do another method called LBL by Dr. Michael Newton.
Mhm.
I suppose my passion is working with my soul in whatever way that leads me to. So I'm curious, and I do a lot of research on exploration and paranormal.
Uh-huh.
And my sessions, QHHT sessions, tend to reflect that as well. So that's me in a nutshell. I could go on forever.
Yeah. So, Trina, I want to know a little bit more about this because it resonates with me because it's very similar to my story. When when I well, I finished my level two in 2013. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, summer 2014, right before Dolores passed. And then she passed, and I was just level two, la 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 la. I had a corporate full-time job. I was helping a friend launch a nonprofit. I was teaching at an online university and doing QHHT. So I was like, I don't need to be a level three. I don't want to be a level three. I'm doing this, it's on the weekends. It's fun, it warms my heart. It feeds my soul kind of thing. And really had no intention of going any further than that. And then, of course, there was this kind of organizational shift that had to happen right after Dolores passed, and as Julia was kind of getting her feet, you know, her feet under her legs, going with the organization, and then that happened in about late 2015, early 2016. And then Suzanne Spooner came to Durango, and I think she was like scouting, like to go, you need to be a level three. You need to be a level three. And so she asked me that, and I took her around to meet my friend and the nonprofit that we were working on, my office, my home, and it was like, Suzanne, I got all these balls in the air. I don't. She's like, you need to be a level three, and I'm like, okay. So my husband and I had planned a trip in Ireland. We had planned a vacation in Ireland. We were going to drive all the way around the island, 2 weeks, just having fun, not a set itinerary, just rent a car and just have fun. And then I was within a week or two of us having that trip completely planned. Um, it came out that there was going to be level three training in Port Marnock. All right. Okay. I'll do it.
It's funny, I did my level, we had the chat last, I did my level two, same time, which obviously I would have, and you would have just come in the next day. Mind blowing to me. Mind blowing.
Yeah.
2016, yeah.
But the universe was just like, this is what you're going to do. Stop it. This is what you're going to do.
And I think if I had been to Morocco before, but I always wanted to go to Casablanca. And if it had been anywhere else, despite Spirit pushing me, I think I would have gone, nope, you know. And I think I kind of, all right, it looks lovely, and the hotel was lovely. And there was only two of us actually for our level three training.
Mm,
Somebody wasn't able to come.
mm,
So I got tons and tons of one-to-one time with Julia for the 3 or 4 days, and we had lots of fun actually. But we all got food po well, not all, sorry, myself and really bad food poisoning.
oh
Like I
no.
mean really, really bad. I barely got on a plane. So it was very interesting.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So, Ignazio, were you reticent or because you already had your whole meditation teaching and stuff. Were you like, do I,
Um,
don't I? Or were you like, no, I'm going for level three from day one?
no, level three absolutely was not on my radar. No, was level two. I think
Okay.
the beginning with Dolores, let's call it, the level one, that was instantaneous love. It was as soon as I heard her speak, I knew that she was speaking the truth.
Mm,
And regardless of what she was saying, it just emanated that vibration of truth.
mm,
And also of truth and of piercing through the veil of, what is the appearance of how the world goes, in the 3D, very physical world. So
mm,
that piqued my interest incredibly. But after that, yeah, I wasn't really interested. I thought my sessions were amazing. They were going so well. And so I didn't feel the need until I was called to Egypt again.
Mhm.
Boom, it just happened. I thought I had to go. And same thing again, after I did that, I wasn't quite sure. And then I just was pulled into level three. And I think this ties very well with what, we're also talking about tonight, which is meditation and which is kind of intuition. I mean,
Mhm.
you can call it in different ways, and you can call it messages from, our guides or our higher self,
Mhm.
but something that pierces our current belief systems, our current thinking, that is not just a series of plus and minuses and pros and cons, but something that comes from within and is able to just pierce all of that. And
Mhm.
that, I think, is, for example, one of the biggest gifts that meditation and other spiritual practices also can give us, is the intuition, and to start to recognize when there is something coming from a deeper part of ourselves
Mhm.
and that wants to guide us in one direction or another.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. The ability to listen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
And
Yeah.
to action.
fortunately for us, sometimes it's so strong that we gotta listen even if we don't want to,
Right.
like it was in our cases. But
Right.
it's a good thing if we can, set ourselves up to receive and hear more and listen more.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a few people online and already have a question with something that Ignacio that you have presented here. So you said, and other spiritual practices. What other spiritual practices?
So, first of all, it's beautiful that in this kind of, let's call it new age, for lack of better words, we are full of different practices.
Mhm.
And I think that you can look at practices in different ways. But first of all, the intention of whatever you do is very important,
Mhm.
because you could go to the gym to just put muscles on, but you can also go to the gym and really love yourself and know that you're working on making your body healthier and cleaning your body, and that starts to have a completely different effect on your spiritual development.
Mhm.
So you have practices for the body, you have practices for the heart, the emotions, you have practices for the mind, and you have practices for your energies. And then you have practices where you're cultivating awareness and also practicing silence. So I think everybody in that sense is different, and different practices work for different people. And some practices are, in general more effective. Like we know, QHHT is QHHT, and it's not the same as other hypnosis. And
Mhm.
that's true also of practices. They're not all the same, but then, we're all different. And so we all find what we need to. But
Mhm.
that's kind of a general response, but there, we
Mhm.
can go then into detail of different practices and be more specific, but
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Great. Awesome. So in QHHT sessions, to bring it around to our topic today, um, what does the higher self say about meditation? Trina, what are you hearing in sessions? Like what advice do they give people when it comes to meditation?
I mean, every single session, every single one, they say they need to meditate.
Mhm.
Obviously, when I ask why is that important? Tell me more.
Mhm.
It's they say it's because we do live in a very active, consciously active world now. We just do. The brain, the mind, our environment, we go at a very, very fast pace, and not everyone is kind of lucky enough, I suppose, to have what we might have had 100 years ago, with where we
Mhm.
could sit around the fire and do nothing at all, no distractions, no
Mhm.
TVs.
Mhm.
So even more important that we take time out to still the mind, but even more so, even little children, cognitively speaking, haven't learned to pause. Like, they haven't learned to
Mhm.
be bored or messy or all this kind of stuff. So they come up all the time saying, how on earth can you reach a deeper level of conscious awareness? How can you be more compassionate to yourself? how can you be more compassionate and live in a conscious living lifestyle if you're not even aware of what you're feeling or what you're thinking, aware, because you're not pausing. So a lot of times, for the most part, when they say meditation, they really mean pause and learning to mind, like just not thinking, not doing, not having be anything, anyone, anywhere. Then often, so always 101 that comes up in every single session, and the importance of why for that particular person. The other thing is, if people want to be more spiritually aware or go deeper or connect more with our guides, then they say that's a slightly different type of practice, a different type of meditation, of course, to do that. But again, you still have to do number one. Like, how on earth can I hear my guides if I can't even hear myself? How can I know what's my stuff, what's their stuff energetically if I don't even aware of what I'm feeling? So again, they come back to step number one, 101, learn to pause, learn to sit, learn to be silent, learn to be present, which it sounds so simple, but 95, 96% of clients struggle with that. Like they seriously struggle. And the body has to get used to that kind of state, and the chemicals in the body, our muscles, our mind, everything has to, just like train for a marathon, you have to learn. So actually, when I first started practicing formal meditation, it was after my husband died, and I had nothing else to do because I just had a kidney transplant. I couldn't drive, I couldn't lift. I didn't even have a TV in the house, I don't think, at the time. No, no distractions. And I could only last 2 minutes at a time before I was thinking, I wonder what I do later. I wonder before that monkey. And with consistent practice, several times all day, every day, over say 6 weeks, I could then go to 6 hours of pure trance, and I mean 6 hours where I was aware but not aware, as in that in TM they call it like the non-existent existence place. Oh, if I'm lucky, I could maybe do 25 minutes because my mind becomes active again. So in sessions, they just are always, always about coming back to being still, being present, being aware, being consciously aware, then building the platform to go sit in a star if you want to, or whatever, wherever to go.
Yeah. I went back since we talked in October, and I wanted to kind of validate this for myself. So I keep copious notes during the QHHT session. It's just my process. It's just my way of keeping myself like really in the moment with the client, with the higher self. And so, I'll just be writing like this during the entire session. And so I went back and kind of flipped through my notes since October, and I'm like, was it 100% that they recommended meditation? And yes, it was 100% of the sessions since we last talked in October, that the higher self has said, usually what I'll do is after the body scan, I'll do something, I'll just open it, after we've done all of the physical healing and everything that we needed to do with the physical body, I'll just say, I'll just have a really open-ended question of, and so what else should Brian do for his health? And they'll say meditation. That's when they'll usually say meditation for their physical health. So that's interesting too, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of science and studies that show the benefit of meditation. When we have longevity, our heart is better, our nervous system's better, our flight, adrenal glands, or endorphins, you name it. The only time they ever don't say meditate is when the person's already doing it. Because, what else can they do when they're already doing that? But sometimes they tell them to change their type of meditation, which is interesting. Sometimes they say, in that, but they're not doing this. They're very mindful present. They're doing an hour and a half every day, mindfulness, but they're not connecting to ourselves either. So, so it's interesting. It's different for each person, and the time is different that's given for each person, I find. Which I love that because it tells me that we're all different. I love that. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Or higher says something like, "Well, you already know, but we'll tell you anyway, just for the record."
Right. Or
People
sometimes
saying things.
I'll say, I think I know what you're gonna say, but just for the recorder, let's
Yes, for the recording. Yeah, thank you. You can tell us again. I just don't know. I think we've come away a lot in 100 years from being able to just be present, like people walking down the road and they're on their phone, and I'm not being hypocritical, not being judgmental here, but they're on the phone and they're
Mhm.
not really looking or stopping, breathing. And actually, we don't even breathe properly anymore. We breathe
Mhm.
halfway down to our lungs. We don't fully belly breathe up and down. And that's because we're too impatient to breathe properly. It just shows you where our
Mhm.
mind is.
Mhm.
But and I teach, spiritual mentoring. The very first thing I say, don't start channeling beings from outer space or your
Mhm.
guides, anything until you know what's coming from you. What's good? Don't start blaming the person across the road for psychically attacking you. You don't even know what's your stuff.
Right.
How can you know what's their stuff? Just
Right.
be, I suppose we're on this journey to know ourselves better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've said that. That's the point. You knowing you. That's it. You knowing you. Yeah. Ignacio, what are they telling you in QHHT sessions
Yeah,
about?
I can confirm what you're saying, and yeah, I might not get it 100% of the time, and I mentioned this, before, and maybe because somebody might not be ready, or it might not be exactly, what is appropriate for them in that time,
Mhm.
is, somebody could have told me meditation was the most important thing when I was, 15, and I would have said no, never. And then, it became so, but absolutely. And like Trina was saying, different types of what we call meditation to different people, different amounts of time. But all of it definitely to create that clarity, that silence, so that we can not just hear, but also be happy. One of the things that I discovered through meditation is that the core of our being is pure bliss and pure happiness and pure life energy. And
Mhm.
so when I quiet down, I
Mhm.
can just perceive that better. And I don't really have to achieve that or do something in order to achieve it. And I think, as Trina was saying in different words, that's kind of the basis for all the spiritual work. That to know oneself, to be also centered into this source of, infinite joy, infinite bliss, infinite love,
Mhm.
and then to be able to make sense of the world, because we become clear mirrors. And so then we can tell also, if I'm very, very clear and peaceful, and then somebody is, sad or angry, I can see that mirrored on me much clearer than if I'm also sad or angry or upset.
Mhm.
And then I start to miss what is me, what is not
Mhm.
me. And
Mhm.
so sometimes also when we do this spiritual work and we're immersed in energies that can be a bit heavy depending on what we're doing. If we know it's not us, it's much easier also to manage it, because we know that we
Mhm.
can just go for a walk and it's going to just
Mhm.
fade away, rather than being an existential problem that I
Mhm.
have to try and sort. And I don't
Mhm.
even know where to go with that.
Mhm.
So yeah, absolutely. Loads of meditations, and they do it to connect to their guides. Some
Mhm.
is for enlightenment. Some of them is so that they can read nature better. There's a lot of emergence of these gifts. People that were seers, maybe in other life, and they used to communicate with other dimensions or the stars or just nature. They would be able to read nature.
Mhm.
And so a lot of it is also with meditation is go spend time in nature.
Mhm.
Nature
Yeah.
has, that harmony of sounds, a few birds in nature. We're not going to call that noise.
Mhm.
It's still silence. And so nature is another one of those things. And then the best is go meditate in nature. Then
Yes.
you, then you get
It's hard to do
the
in Colorado in December, but yeah.
part
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is just amazing how frequently they They recommend it. Um, so we talked, Ignacio, you just said about how there's different kinds of meditation. And Trina, you use this term TM. So what about different modalities of meditation? I mean, my gosh, there's what, 6,000 years, I think, of Tibetan records of meditation practice. What do you guys think about the different modalities, maybe even dogmas around meditation? Some people think, well, I have to go take a class, I have to sit in a certain way, hold my hands a certain way, and do something for 6 straight hours. Or what do you guys think about all of these modalities? Ignazio, you're the teacher. Teach us.
So is Trina. Um, uh, I again, the world is full of practices. My master used to say, life is our teacher, really.
Mhm,
And so everybody goes and finds what resonates with them in the moment that it resonates with them, and that brings it forward. For me, my practice is kind of a series of things. So the first thing normally that I would do is to breathe slow and deep. And that is a physiological, metabolical shift in my energies.
mhm,
Now, I also practice forms of managing my Kundalini energy. So, together with breathing, I slowly move my Kundalini energy from the base of the spine to the center of the head. And I do that almost like lubricating the path that
mhm,
takes that energy. And there's so much to say about that. So, that's kind of my preparation. I use the breath to shift my energy, and I move the Kundalini energy to also clear my nervous system,
mhm,
which in turn is a form of purification of all of these levels that we were talking about, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the energetic. So that does it. And after that, for myself, I practice basically deep relaxation, so still more preparation. And I say it like this, but it really takes me 5, 6 minutes now to do
mhm,
all of this preparation.
mhm, mhm,
So that I basically first relax and quiet down, almost shut down my body. Then I do the same with my heart space. And then I do the same with my mind. And then after I enter that space that Trina was talking about, that being, no, not being, that for me is connection to source.
mhm,
That's how kind of I see it, like the creator in me, the shapeless origin of all that is, God. I call it God. I
mhm,
don't always call it God, but for me it is,
mhm,
because I see that it springs unity and intention across the cosmos and love as the first emanation. So then I kind of just bask in that. And then after that, usually that's the time for me to then receive more pragmatic messages or directions. So that's the moment to reactivate my mind, but in a more receiving and intuition form. And
mhm,
so that might take the form of a short channeling or just listening what, some of my guides might say, or Jesus, who's, one of master number one for me, probably, and just listen and see if I get any direction
mhm,
in a more verbal form, because a lot of it doesn't have to be verbal. The
mhm,
more we spend time in that silence, and the more it's like having this sail and just having these winds that, drive you.
mhm,
And obviously it's not like that all the time. There's
mhm,
friction.
mhm,
It's not always,
mhm,
roses with no thorns, but
mhm,
it's absolutely beautiful. So that's kind of my practice, and I built it up in order to have all of these different dimensions in one time. And I'll just say that if then there happens to be something that is a little bit of a disturbance, something that, I might have some period of my life or some moment of my life in which something is kind of nagging me in the back of my head, then I know that there's something I need to attend to. And I know that there's something maybe more specific that I need to do, which can be any sort of other introspective meditative practice. Um, or not just by myself, QHHT is amazing also for that. What is this thing that's bothering me and I can't quite reach by myself, or maybe I could, but life wants me to work with somebody, because that's another thing to remember, that it's not just about what I can do by myself or what I should do. It's also about exchange with people, because we could really get direction from my higher self for everything all the time. But that's not really why we're here. We're here to be individuals and connect with other people and exchange in that way and see, I'll use that term, God in the other person. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Thank you for sharing all of that. Trina, what advice do you have about how do we meditate?
That sounds so beautiful, Ignazio. It just sounds so
Mhm.
romantic. It's lovely. Um, for me, it's probably more a lifestyle. So it's no point, and I say this to the students as well as for me, there's no point for them to sit down for an hour, half an hour, and do this meditation if they go out and aren't compassionate to themselves or negative self-believing thoughts,
Mhm.
doing stuff that's harmful for themselves, So it's about incorporating it into your entire life. It's a way of being, which is wellness and well-being, wellness living, well-being living. It's everything. So maybe one day we're big sea swimming in the town I live in Greystones. So maybe one day they'll go sea swimming, and you can't not be present in Ireland in the ocean nearby. It's so cold. So they'll be 100% present in their body. Well, it's their body communicating with them. And other times it might be like nature, or they might be doing a mindfulness practice. The sounds, the smells, the tastes, and they would probably be more formal styles. Breathworks, as Ignatius, says, I always use the breath very quickly to slow down the heart, being more present. Um, Things like that. I mean, absolutely. But meditation, and I think people hear meditation, they think like or sitting in a certain way, and like there's a benefit that is coming from somewhere, and there's benefit to having a formal style of discipline. Like meditation, though, is being like in the shower and feeling the water and being present, walking somewhere just for the sake of walking, without walking to somewhere. It's about allowing your mind to change its self-negative repeating patterns. It's about allowing new conscious awareness to come in. And we can only do that by being fully present every day. For me, when I talk about my formal practices, it's more power. So as it's a medium and channeler and stuff like that, it's about power. So what I do with me constantly, my students, we build up the auric field power. And then in that way, I can access anything in the body, can scan my body, I can remove anything more or less in the body, connect with my guides, connect with beings, whatever, connect with past, present, and future, because I'm using that energy that's built up in my power. I'm not using my body energy. And then if I'm tired or I'm grasping for information, then I know I need to go a bit deeper, in which case, close my eyes, count to 10, and bada bing, I'll be there. Or I'll sit and do a building your power meditation. Now, that sounds really easy, but it's taken me 10 years of doing every single day to build up to having that power in my work field. So,
We can
um,
feel it, Trina.
yeah.
Yeah.
We can see it and we can feel it.
Well, somebody said to me, "How can you just connect with your guides? You don't need to close your eyes. You need to do 20 minutes." And I said, "Oh, no, no. I used to have to
Yeah.
close my eyes, go deep for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and then, bring them in. But now I know they'll tap, they'll smell, they'll taste. But that's the power. It's because it's worth it. It's worth putting in the work. It's worth putting in the effort. But I do feel it depends on what your intention is. It comes down to the intention. So the platform, stilling the mind, being present, wellness every day. Absolutely, it's no point being a guru on a mountain if you have to come down and have a screaming match with somebody because your coffee's wrong. Like
Right.
integration, right? Um, And then the second thing is that the spiritual practice would be higher self, guides, source, beings, collective consciousness, whatever that is. Your intuition, your psychic is always going to come down to trust, which again, that helps if you build your auric field. Mediumship, channeling is going to come down to your power. So again, that's practice. So, but really, yeah, it depends on intention. A little bit like Ignazio when you said that if there's something so much deeper in me that I know I can't quite touch, that's maybe something more complex, then I'll have a session. I probably do 4 a year anyway. And in that session, it allows me to kind of nearly completely bypass my conscious mind and get
Mhm.
deeper information without me thinking and analyzing about it.
Mhm.
So hypnosis is wonderful for me. It's
Mhm.
absolutely for me. It's
Mhm.
amazing because it just brings me where I need to go really, really quickly. And
Mhm.
hypnosis, confusion, relaxation, deepeners, and hypnosis is so quick, like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So maybe it's laziness as I've gone through the last few years, but for me, quick, cheerful, as long as it's quality, quality, not quantity.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too, Trina, that, if you can, isn't the ultimate goal to be, in a frenetic traffic situation or, an impatient grocery store situation or whatever, and then to be able to reach that meditative state in that moment, not necessarily sitting on a pillow in a quiet room, right?
Sound like, what's the point otherwise? What's the
Exactly.
point in having 20 minutes of nirvana and then having to go back to 23 hours and blah, blah minutes of
Yeah.
non-nirvana? It's
Yeah.
really about using it
Mhm.
to be more,
Mhm.
right? Be more than this conscious human being that I am. And I
Mhm.
100% agree with Ignazio when you said we really are here on this journey in this body. So too many of my students are just too much in the spiritual realm and they're
Mhm.
drifting and floating all the time
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
they're not grounded and then
Mhm.
some other
Mhm.
people are too here and they're not enough there.
Mhm.
So it's going to be different for everyone. I don't
Mhm.
think one answer fits all. For me, I mix it up because intuitively I'll know what I need on the day.
Mhm.
And removing trauma is a big help for meditation too. If you remove trauma, you can definitely go deeper and go
Mhm.
higher.
Mhm. What do you
Better.
guys think about music or sound, either one during meditation? Does that help? Does that hinder? Is that a training wheel that you want to take off later? I mean, well, either it's recorded music, maybe you've got headphones on, or maybe it's even like a, singing bowls or gongs or something. What's your attitude of sound associated with the meditative process? Ignacio, what do you think?
Well, I don't use it is a general thing, and I think it's because one of my kind of more classical training in that sense, and so
Mhm.
that stuck with me.
Mhm.
And the fact that for me silence is the center, and
Mhm.
so I am quieting everything, and so in that way, I don't use it, and I kind of don't usually recommend to be used. I think definitely has a place
Mhm.
because, as Trina was saying, part of our practice is to be present and to be present as much as we can throughout, all our life. And so, if I can listen to music and be present, first of all, that's a beautiful experience.
Mhm.
And that might help somebody to have something that is harmonious and beautiful where they can bring their presence to. And also, it might help with practices where you're not necessarily looking for silence, but you're looking for something else, and so it creates ambience. So I can see the use of it. And also there's other practices, like gong baths or
Mhm.
other forms of immersion within sound
Mhm.
that include also music that are absolutely beautiful. But again, that for me would be a localized, beautiful experience rather than a practice that I engage with all the time. But you know, that's for
What do you think, Trina? What do you think about
Yeah, I
song?
agree 100%. It can be more distracting having it on. And
Hmm.
I had a channeling mentorship recently, and I played some music, and half it brought them up and half it brought them down, you know.
Yeah.
So by up, I mean up out of trance.
Hmm.
So it's a really personal, but from a
Hmm.
formal practice point of view, 100% we're not really meant to use it.
Hmm.
And then I feel it's really good for things like hypnosis journeys
Hmm.
where you know, the brain believes it to be true, it becomes true. So, like if you're walking through the forest and you hear birds in the meditation, it can amplify and act as a deepener for that
Hmm.
trance state.
Hmm.
So, I think it depends on what you want to use it for. For the most part, it's a no for me,
Hmm.
except I do in my spiritual mentorship group, I do use music to elicit an emotion.
Hmm.
Sadness, worry, fear, happiness, joy. I
Hmm.
want them to connect into the heart center and build that up because
Hmm.
us Irish, anyway, we're
Hmm.
very disconnected from being able to express how we're feeling. We're taught, don't cry, don't show your
Hmm.
emotion. We're
Hmm.
taught as a young person. So I'm feeling is just hugely empowering. So
Hmm.
I use it to elicit an emotional response within
Hmm.
myself. So
Hmm.
sometimes I'm feeling grief and I can't cry anymore because it's been nearly 10 years since he died. But I know I'm feeling it inside. So I'll put on a sad song deliberately just to make me
Uh-huh.
cry,
Very good.
or a happy song to boost my energy. So
Hmm.
I use it that way,
Hmm.
but 100% I agree with Ignazio. It's not a tool to be relied on
Hmm.
in regards to meditation.
Very good. Very good. I like that. As a psychologist, I offer a thing called Safe and Sound Protocol that I found many years ago. And it's a listening therapy for the nervous system. So you wear over the ear headphones, you listen to this specific music for just like 10 or 15 minutes a day as a psychotherapy. And what that music is doing, what the doctor that created it, what he found out was there's certain frequencies that he's embedded in this music that trigger a vagus nerve response, and that vagus nerve response sends people's nervous system into a restful state. And you mentioned earlier, Trina, that trauma, people that carry trauma physiologically, in our nervous system, that gets carried there. And that's what this particular therapy is to do, is to retrain the nervous system about how to respond to and release then that trauma. And that it doesn't have anything to do with meditation, but I think it kind of what you said about the need for trauma to go deeper, to heal trauma, to go deeper in meditation. There are other therapies that might be important that help people with their meditation. So, yeah.
I know someone who does these incredible sound baths, or I call it
Hmm.
bowling. So they're, the bowls. And I know for me, the minute I hear one of the frequencies, oh, I get that drop that we're always looking for. The other
Hmm.
frequencies just completely bring me out. But
Hmm.
again, different binaural beats, different frequencies.
Hmm.
But I suppose the thing is, and I love that protocol, I think that's cool. Different beats suit different people.
Hmm.
And if you're doing it in a group, how do you know which one suits?
Right, right, right. I actually had a very negative visceral reaction to the sound healing that we did in Sedona. I literally had to leave the room. It was terrible. It was, yeah.
So for me,
So,
I'm very, very sensitive
yeah.
to beats, like some just my energy. So again, I think
Hmm.
I did too, actually.
Hmm.
And some sounds, yeah, anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So I think this very personal.
Hmm.
Sounds are personal,
Hmm.
frequencies are personal,
Yeah.
colors very personal,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and don't get me wrong, I love sound. I love it. But again, I will choose what's right for me. I would
Hmm.
never dream of choosing what's right for
Hmm.
someone else. So I'd
Hmm.
say that experimentation for them.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to what you said earlier. The most important thing is you know you. Yeah. Very good. So, what's the difference between meditation and prayer? Have you guys gotten any clarity on that? Because, I'll have clients come in that are very, from a religious background, and they'll tell me that they pray every day or pray for so long every day or pray a certain way every day. Is that meditation or is that something different?
I think any practice that it brings you into a repetitive state turns into a meditation or turns into a trance state. I mean, in Ireland, we're primarily Roman Catholic, or we certainly were, so dragged into church constantly, and it's just like you repeated them without even thinking about them, like
Mm-hmm.
no conscious thought about the prayers you're saying. So it turned into like a mantra, and you
Mm-hmm.
just and any mantra, whether it's japa, whether it's mantras, whether it's I am mantra, it brings you into a altered state. So I personally, anyone with any religion or faith or trust in something over someone who's completely agnostic and doesn't believe in anything, because it means they have a faith in something more.
Mm-hmm.
And me, meditation is just about connection, whatever type of connection you want. So religion or a religious practice, but prayer. I'm not a spiritualist, but I've done a lot of work with spiritualists, and they always bring in a prayer first. And the anti-religious person in me used to kind of go, I'm not doing associated with prayer. And I actually ran out of a demonstration, a mediumship one time. I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? But now I've come to peace with it. And
Mm-hmm.
prayer, I just think it's a sense of reverence. So whether you're praying to yourself, your spirit, your own soul, but manifesting, whether you're praying, it doesn't matter. Prayer to me is reverence, whereas meditation is connection.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Ignazio? What's the
Um,
difference between prayer and meditation?
so I'm going to put a disclaimer on this. Um, because I think it is a really important question, and it is also an important question for many people that pray and don't meditate, and for many people that maybe meditate and don't pray. And so the first thing I'd like to say is that it really depends on how we define prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Not just me, but the person listening or the person praying. And it also depends on how we define meditation. And we've talked about a lot of stuff tonight. So it also depends on that. So in my experience, I grew up Catholic. And when I had my spiritual awakening, it was a very Christian also. My mind was full of Christian knowledge. I knew nothing else about, Eastern mysticism or anything like that. And my awakening was also very meditative in the sense that I went, was supposed to study a subject, but I went to my parents' home and I basically sat there for 3 weeks in this bliss and 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 consciousness and love, but also turmoil, because all of a sudden I was in contact with this infinite love. And I was looking also, I knew what the world was like. It wasn't like, and so I was praying. And one of the prayers that I said, and I was crying when I was praying, and I was saying, why isn't love enough? Like I'm feeling all of this. Why isn't love enough? And this voice told me consciousness. Basically, it answered almost like it isn't just about love, it is about the maturity of you as a being and how that will impact the love that you can deliver in the world and receive from the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gives rise also on our planet to all of these practices that are about the presence and the awareness. So already there's that distinction that Trina was touching. I can pray, but unaware. I can just repeat things inside of me, but
Mm-hmm.
I am losing the element of presence.
Mm-hmm.
So for most people, praying is mentally either repeating a prayer or asking for something
Mm-hmm.
for yourself or for others. Mostly, there's other forms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can either repeat a prayer over and over, Our Father who's art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I don't know it in English very well. I know it in Italian.
Mhm.
And there were days of my spiritual awakening where I would do that the whole day. I
Mhm.
would say 1,000 of those.
Mhm.
And that brought devotion, which is what you were talking about in a different term, Trina. Reverence and, bhakti, they call it. So it was a very beautiful prayer for the heart, and I was present with it. And so that's one way. And then there's also praying for others. Now, praying for others is something that I've kind of altered in time
Mhm.
because I've become more aware of my own energies and also of the free will that everybody has in on planet Earth and how their life reflects their free will. And so I'm very gentle with messing with people. And so the way I've solved it is that I just send kind of my love to this container or whatever
Yeah.
reservoir,
Yeah.
and may it be distributed then by God or who for or whoever is working on his or her behalf, on its behalf, to whoever needs it. And so I have that kind of different form of prayer. Even on things that are very, very like, praying for health of somebody. It's a beautiful thing. And it's not that I don't do it. But also I know now that the illness, the problem is a teacher and that
Mhm.
it's trying to teach something. And so it's not really appropriate for me to go there and not want it,
Mhm.
ask it for to go, maybe together with, so again, it's not that I don't do it and I don't wish the best for everybody. I do.
Mhm.
But so that's kind of more prayer.
I see.
I'm talking, I'm sometimes it's a dialogue with, your higher self. And then the meditation, even though there's loads of meditations and you can meditate and connect to your guides, in my point of view, is just being one with God. I'm not
Mhm.
asking you anything. I
Mhm.
don't want anything from
Mhm.
you. I don't want you to save me. I don't want others to be saved. Not again, not because I don't love him. I love everybody.
Mhm.
I am just being with you. And
Mhm.
I'm just there. And to be there, I also have to listen.
Mhm.
It's one and the same. Presence and opening. It's not listening with the ears, it's listening with the whole being.
Mhm.
And so, in that sense, meditation is more towards a receiving and being rather than a saying and asking. And I think they're both equally beautiful. I think we need both in a way. I've had periods where I have done much more meditation and less prayer. And if I do go and I do a little bit of that, that's like, also beautiful. So I see that distinction, and definitely meditation is an amazing tool for anybody from any walk, from any faith, because it doesn't have to do in the way I feel meditation and I practice it. It doesn't have to do with what you believe because you exist. And sometimes there can be a fear factor in that because to reach that, you've got to cross your traumas, your fears, your misrepresentations of yourself,
Mhm.
of God, of everything.
Mhm.
It's only after you've kind of cleared those things that you can go and just be and recognize that being is just pure nothingness that is void of, it's both pure nothingness and pure everything.
Mhm.
And so that's where the inner lightless sun starts to shine, and then you have no doubt because it's not in the thought, the doubt is in the thought.
Mhm. Very good. Beautifully said. Thank you, Ignacio. Beautiful. So you mentioned something about like praying for someone else, praying for someone else's health or whatever, maybe, Aunt Bertha is in the hospital. We're going to pray for Aunt Bertha to get better, right? So I led for many years, I'm not leading one right now, but for many, many years, I led these Power of Eight groups. I don't know if you guys have heard of Power of Eight by Lynn McTaggart. And she's done all of this scientific research about how people coming together in prayer, and she doesn't really differentiate, I don't think, strongly between between prayer and meditation. So I don't know. But with these power of 8 groups, where if you have 8 or more people focused on an intention in a certain way, and so she's done all sorts of scientific research on um, uh, peace. Like there'll be 10,000 people simultaneously meditating online for peace in a certain place in the world, and then validating that with police records or mortality records or whatever, and demonstrated over and over and over again the scientifically the power of these intentions, these collective intentions. And so I had done that for years and years and years. And then you guys know I'm like this huge quantum physics geek, right? I just like devour everything that I can get, that new stuff that comes out on quantum physics. And it suddenly dawned on me. Somehow those two things collided, and like I had this epiphany. It was shown to me, probably in a meditation. I don't know, I don't remember. But when I pray for Aunt Bertha to get better and Aunt Bertha gets better, nothing happened to Aunt Bertha. I moved myself into a dimension where I experienced Aunt Bertha getting better. You know, there's a million universes of Aunt Bertha got a little better and then she got worse and then she died. There's a universe where Aunt Bertha never got better and she died. There's a universe where Aunt Bertha was never sick in the first place. There was a universe where Aunt Bertha got well and became an Olympic athlete, you know, yada, 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 yada. And so when we pray for Aunt Bertha to get better and Aunt Bertha gets better, because we moved ourselves. We didn't prevent Aunt Bertha's lessons or anything like that, but it goes back to this belief that you're actually the only person in your universe. And so through my prayer, I'm moving myself dimensionally into different experiences. You know, when I ask for different things via prayer, all I'm doing is shifting my own universal experience to when that result becomes manifest. Does that make sense?
Like it
Yes.
does,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
really did do well in physics
Yeah.
in third level science, and I'm shown stuff quite often in, quiet. I'll say meditation, but really it's meditation when you just close your eyes and you connect, or this connection. That I just don't understand. I still don't understand. Stars imploding, exploding, atoms. I don't know. I don't know why they're showing me. And it blows my mind, but I get where you're going. I was initially thinking as you were talking, you know, Dolores said how like we can manipulate energy by focusing on energy, and our frequency and our mind will go to where that is. So if we're thinking I'm
Mhm.
gonna be well, then our
Mhm.
body
Mhm. I
and
hope
our
there's good weather. Well, you just made the weather not good, right? Yeah, yeah.
but if globally, if everyone comes together with the same intention, I mean, even the Schumann frequency changes, they can measure the frequency changes in
Mhm.
different places, because
Mhm.
we're all shifting the energy, that universal energetic force to that outcome. But
Mhm.
in regards, so I absolutely believe that it's quantifiable, and
Mhm.
that we can actually physically, change these amazing things. In regards to, yeah, 100% I agree with the two of you. I don't believe we can heal anyone. I've come to that conclusion.
Mhm.
I believe that I can potentially encourage the other person to heal themselves.
Mhm.
And maybe, maybe not. And yeah, I don't do any healing anymore. I used to do trance healing, spirit healing, Hani, Reiki, you name it. I used to do it. Now I just don't,
Mhm.
because I think at the end of the day it may help, but I'm not convinced it's going to alter their life path, which is their
Mhm.
journey. I'm a little bit
Right.
arrogant thinking I might possibly alter their life path. But that's mad about the, different dimensional. Remember, Dolores said that it's not just past life regression, it's time travel. And we can
Mhm.
change the past, we can change the future. That
Mhm.
definitely isn't what you're saying, Holly.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Change it
Yeah.
into a time.
Yeah. I don't know.
Absolutely
Blows
beautiful.
my mind. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
mine.
do see what you're saying, and it is, yeah, it's amazing. And I concur. That's happening also.
Yeah. So we've got time for one more question. We've had quite a few people come in and out. It's in the U.S. We're in the middle of a work day, so we've got several people. I gotta. I'm at work and listening, but I gotta go, kind of thing. Um. One last. I think we've got time for one last question. I try, and this is from the audience. I tried to meditate and I couldn't. It's just not for me. Can you? Can you? Um, are there some people that can't meditate?
Do you know, it's always just perception. It's just perception. If they are going for a walk or in the sea or in a bath, feeling the bubbles, and they're
Mhm,
not in their head, they're in their body, that's a form of meditation. If they're a runner, it's meditation because it's impossible to
mhm,
run and be in your head.
mhm,
If they dream, there's a form of
mhm,
meditation. Impossible. And I get it all the time, my students. I can't connect to my guides. I can't connect to my higher self. I can't.
mhm.
And I'm like, you already are. It's already happening. You
Mhm,
just are expecting to get your information in a different way. So
mhm,
I'd be curious to know, why do they think they're meditating? Is it
mhm,
because they've seen pictures where they can be silent for an hour sitting cross-legged, or
mhm,
is it is it they're expecting some massive emotional or physical change? More than likely, to me, when people say that, it's because they're asking an answer and they want an answer. They're asking a question, they want an
mhm,
answer, and they're not getting it. Therefore, they're thinking they're not meditating. And it's about our soul will receive the information in not necessarily hearing, not necessarily visual. We will feel the answer, we will know the answer, and our soul communicates with us from a soul to soul level. And then the other thing is, like, there are some contraindicators to meditation. I mean, my daughter is autistic and ADHD, and I dragged her to TM and mindfulness for years. And sure, she's sitting there, cross-legged, thinking about, I wonder about my PlayStation, I wonder what game I'm going to be, you know,
mhm,
how she meditates is she walks a lot, like
mhm,
30,000 steps a day, and she walks super fast, where
mhm,
she's just about focusing on everything around her. And she does that for about an hour a day.
mhm,
Great, beautiful.
mhm,
So there are some contraindicators to meditation, but I
mhm,
guarantee you get it every day. And for
mhm,
me, it's about allowing your practice to incorporate with you, not trying to do what works for someone else. Life should not be a chore. Meditation shouldn't be a chore. It should be something you enjoy to do. Can't
mhm,
wait to, go for a run and have to not think today, or I can't wait to connect with my
mhm.
guides today.
Yeah.
So pressure, perception.
Yeah. This person says, so they answered your question. So I just can't quiet my mind. The grocery list, the to-do list is always there. So, Ignacio, what advice do you have for this person? They say that
Um,
they can't quiet their mind.
yeah. So I'm gonna say the same thing Trina said,
Mm,
which is about perception. So first of all, obviously, I'm assuming they have a good technique because in the beginning, you need a process, you need a technique. It's a little bit like QHHT. We could go now maybe in that state by counting to three, but
mhm,
we have a whole structure.
mhm,
So first of all, do you have a good technique and do you know what you're doing? That's the
mhm,
first thing. The second thing is that for the beginning, and the beginning could be a month, a year, or more, the practice of quieting the mind is not to be able to obtain it, but to train it. So
mhm,
what I'm trying to say is that, for example, if you're resting your attention on your breath, and then your mind says, "Oh, amazing, I've been doing it for 2 seconds," that's not a failure. That's the normal practice. You acknowledge it and you go back to the breath.
mhm,
And you keep doing that over and over days, months, years, decades, lifetimes.
Mhm.
Again,
Mhm.
if it resonates with you and you love it,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
or you might it might resonate with you and you might dread it a little bit, but you know it's right for you and you
Mhm.
put in the discipline. What as long as you know it's for you and
Mhm.
that you really want to do it.
Mhm.
And then as a consequence, then you start to get deeper states of silence. And it's not, again, about how much. One drop of that pure silence can change your life just in
Mhm.
one moment.
Mhm.
And also, you start to not give too much weight to the distractions. It's a little bit like having a huge whiteboard and you're writing a word on it,
Mhm.
and then if you go and measure the square centimeters of, the ink on the board, how much actually ink and how much whiteboard is there? Like the ink, there's almost nothing.
Uh-huh.
The
Uh-huh.
whiteboard is full of white. But if I'm constantly focused on that word, on the writing, on the thing, I don't notice that actually it's all around.
Mhm.
So as that starts to permeate more through, the distraction becomes less important because it can still be there. But I know and I notice all of the peace that surrounds it, all of the silence in between it. So it's not a failure to get distracted. If there was a failure, would be that I stopped trying to, to quiet the mind.
Mhm.
And and it's like sport. It's like the more you
Mhm.
do it, the more it works.
Mhm.
And it's almost inevitable if you do it that it works. There's again caveats. You might hit a brick wall like a trauma or something that you gotta go and sort out.
Mhm.
But if you clear your system from those huge things, all the small things, just with practice, they get ironed out. So
Mhm.
it's no problem to get distracted. Just go back to what you're doing, and it depends on the technique.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's like a sport, right?
Mm,
I mean, I've played golf for years and years, and I remember I've never played a musical instrument, but my kids did, and I remember those first few lessons when the kids are picking up their instrument, and it's awful. I mean, it's so terrible.
mm,
But I mean, you have to stick with it, right? And if like it's wintertime now, I'm not playing golf. The minute I grab my clubs in the spring and start playing, it's going to be awful. And I've been playing for 15 years. But
mm,
you get out of practice, because you don't do it every day. And so it is a skill, it is a capability, an ability that you just have to stick with and practice. It's to think that you're going to, have this beautiful golf swing the first time you hold a golf club.
mm,
Like, what? No. It takes years and years and years to think
yeah.
that you're going to be able to, you know, do some sort of amazing jazz riff with a trumpet the first time
Mhm.
you hold it up to your lips. What? No, it takes years and years of practice to do that. Yeah.
Do you know,
Yeah.
it's sometimes as well, it's like, I mean, for me, it genuinely was practice. It didn't happen overnight. And it was because I really wanted to connect with my husband and speak to him
Mm,
in the spirit world. And that gave me the discipline to be able to do that. But
mm,
I mean, I have a lot going on in my life. I always do. Single mom, autistic child, busy, work full time, as all the listeners do too.
mhm,
Why not give yourself permission to look at everything that's in your thoughts right now? I mean, if they're
mhm,
there, they are valid. Maybe you don't have to
mhm,
push them away.
mhm,
Maybe one part of the meditation or is about, giving yourself permission to look at each and every single object. I promise
mhm.
you, I'm bored looking at them.
Right.
Park
Right.
my car the right way? Did I roll
Mhm,
up my window? Did I close the fridge? I wonder,
mhm,
did I
mhm,
that you will drop into that quiet space by giving yourself permission to look at everything.
mhm,
And I have to come back to hypnosis. It is a really quick way to bypass that monkey thinking mind. It's really quick and allows you to go
mhm,
to a guided journey, to a guided hypnosis journey.
mhm,
Uh, that will help you train the brain. Go to a hypnotherapist, go to someone who can help you bypass it quickly. But, and I know I'm very unpopular when I say this, I really am. yes, psychedelics can get you to a certain place
Mhm,
quite quickly,
mhm,
but at the end of the day, and I'm old-fashioned at this time in my life journey, I feel that you still have to put the practice in order to learn how to do it without any external
mhm,
influence. Oh, so hypnosis, psychedelics, even
mhm,
breathwork, to be honest, it all comes down to you being surrendering to what's in the
mhm.
quiet. Like maybe there's something there that you don't want to see.
Right.
But practice, surrender,
Mhm,
trust.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because it's it's such the antithesis to modern life. Like you were saying earlier, Trina, I mean, maybe our ancestors had it a lot easier in terms of connecting just because life was slower, right? Life was less distracting. But, maybe nowadays it just literally takes longer, just more practice is needed because of the level of distraction. I don't know.
Was an action, like it comes into how you're living your life all the time, not during meditation, all the time.
Mhm.
I speak really fast. I would be very much, I have to consciously slow down. I have to
Mhm.
consciously slow
Mhm.
down. I have
Mhm.
to consciously put away my phone and the TV at the
Mhm.
same. I have to
Mhm.
consciously turn off any
Mhm.
distractions after 10 o'clock at night. I have to
Mhm.
consciously do that
Mhm.
because otherwise I'll be in that loop.
Yep.
So I actually have to put action every single day of my life, every single day.
Mhm. Mhm.
Someone behind me skips in front of my coffee this morning. I was like, oh God, they're so rude. I had to consciously, no, seriously, and I consciously take a breath and think, they're on their journey, I'm on mine. Okay, just so my training is about consciously remembering to be nice. To not, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes it works more than others, but it's a daily thing. It's an integration thing. It's your life thing, not just letting go for 10 minutes while you try and meditate. It's
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like what you said earlier too, Trina. You mentioned how I don't remember exactly how you said it, but it struck a chord in me, kind of like thinking back to when my kids were learning how to play their instruments. Nails on chalkboard. But they were so motivated. They didn't know they were horrible. They were learning new things. They were into it. They loved the practice. They couldn't wait to go back to the next lesson, right? And so, your perspective, your intention when you do that sitting down for that practice is this, oh, I can't wait to see what comes up today, or is it I gotta do my 30 minutes of meditation? I mean, that's gonna make all the difference in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, look, honestly, passion, like I think it should be enjoyable. I think connection should be enjoyable. Even a pause, taking 10 minutes out of your busy day, you don't have to worry about is the milk gone off? You know, how
Mhm.
nice is that? How nice is it for yourself? How nice to listen to the kids doing their awful music, knowing that in a few months it's going to get better, you know. I really, at this point in life, I don't think anything should really be a chore because I think you should be looking forward to the outcome at the end of the day, even if it's sore, even if it's hard. Got in the sea the other day in Ireland is cold right now, and I got in the sea, and it was like, I mean, like scream my head off cold.
Mhm.
And was that enjoyable? No, but actually after when
Mhm.
I got wrapped up and came home, that was so enjoyable. So sometimes we have to look forward, fast forward a little bit, but focus on what you're gaining from it. Focus on how your life is going to be better from it,
Mhm.
because oh, geez, life is just too much pressure as it is. I'm sorry, but it is. So
Mhm.
why put more pressure on yourself to obtain to something that a Buddhist monk can do up in Tibet for 10 years where he
Right.
gets served them.
Right.
So, yeah, I 100% agree, honey. Like, should be enjoyable, or the outcome should be
Mhm.
enjoyable.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, we are out of time. So, Ignacio, where do people find you?
Humanspiritualevolution.com, and they will find all about my work, and also I've just launched a new group spiritual mentoring program.
Ooh,
where I've put many of the techniques that we talked about into a video course and also have live sessions weekly. So that's one way also of finding me.
very good. Thank you. And Trina, how do people get connected with you?
And I love that name, Ignazio. I really do. I have a very, very boring name, trionasheeran.com. Nice and simple. And again, I probably do more mentoring packages. I do very little kind of one-off sessions anymore. So that's all changing. And yeah, thank you for listening. And Holly, thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you
Yeah.
for your persistence with YouTube. And you can always find QHHT practitioners at QHHTofficial.com. There's a level 1 or level 2 in your area because there's thousands all over the world. And there's even many, many, I think we're up to like over 40 level 3s, I think now.
Oh,
all over the
70,
world.
just about 70.
What? Oh my God. I guess I haven't been on the site very.
So I said it would be
70.
70. Yeah, I'm very sure it's
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. And the mark of a level 3 is that they are certified to be practicing exactly as Dolores Cannon herself did. So go have a QHHT session and ask, should you be meditating? How? How often? How long? And you'll get that answer guaranteed from the higher self. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being
Thank you,
here.
Holly. Thank you, Trina.
All
And
right.
it was a lovely conversation. I really appreciate
Yes,
it.
I really
Yeah.
loved it.